Hello, hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another episode of A Seat at the Table. We got a very special guest with us today. Please, everybody, welcome Miss Sheri Barros of SVB Group and CMO of Zero Prostate Cancer. How you doing, Miss Sheri, today?
I'm doing so well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you for taking the time to sit with us today.
Of
And
course.
I just really want to get into your amazing work because you do a lot in the sports world,
Yeah.
in the health world,
Yeah.
and social impact.
That's right.
So I guess we can start. Give people like your background story. Let me hear your history.
Well, it's been a journey. So thank you for having me. And I'll try to keep it short. But I started out originally from Atlanta and really wanted to go into psychology when I left Atlanta to go to college at Florida State University. So I'm a proud Seminole. FSU, exactly. And when I got to Florida State, again, studying psychology, I had an opportunity to do an internship with the PGA Championship. So that was really what sparked my interest in sports. And I left Florida State, went to grad school in Dallas, interned with the Texas Rangers and player and community relations on the MLB side, interned with a sports agency, and then landed back with the Atlanta Falcons after I finished my master's. So moved back home and spent the first 4 years of my career in marketing with the Falcons. That moved on into marketing for the Raiders when they were out in Oakland. And then my last team was the San Antonio Spurs, where I managed marketing for the Spurs and then ultimately all of Spurs Sports and Entertainment before I left. Yeah.
That's fire. So let's start with your social impact.
Great.
So I know you're big in that space.
Mhm.
What exactly did you want to achieve?
Yeah. So social impact was always my passion. The way I explain it is, wanting to originally be a psychologist, I had an interest in people and human behavior. So when I decided I wanted to go into the sports industry, it was that bridge to community work and to grassroots. And so I really started out in grassroots marketing. So this and what I'm doing now in the health space is really full circle for me. It's kind of coming back to marrying my interest in people and human behavior and then a sense of purpose in terms of how we can improve our communities across the board. So really, again, if you look at the journey of my career from sports into health, I had the opportunity to work for the American Cancer Society for 7 years, leading all of their sports partnerships. And then Zero Prostate Cancer found me. And I now lead all of the marketing communications for Zero Prostate Cancer. In addition to that, right, because we want to talk about being multifaceted with our careers. So 7 years ago, actually, I founded my own ventures firm, SVB Group Ventures Firm. And we do consulting. And now we're really focusing on that sports ownership and sports documentary space. As a result of, again, I had the privilege to work with sports legends and, team owners. And so really leaning more heavily into that with my business partner who helps manage that side of the house while I focus.
Shout out Stephanie.
Yes, shout out to Stephanie de los Santos McLeese. She's my partner out of Chicago. And again, we've been together for several years, but I actually have known Stephanie for 20 years because we met when I was in grad school in Dallas. So full circle, things really come full circle. Exactly.
So let's talk about some of the amazing work you're doing at the SVB Group.
Yeah.
Edwin Moses,
Mhm.
13 Steps documentary. Are you trying to lean heavy more into filmmaking?
Yeah, so I started working with Edwin last year before I joined Zero Prostate Cancer. Obviously, had a lot more time to
By the
help.
way, he's a great Olympian. In
He
case the
is.
people that don't know who he is.
That's right, the world's greatest 400-meter hurdler of all time. And what's really amazing about Edwin's story and what just was so incredible working with him and getting to know him over the past, year and a half now is that Edwin went to Morehouse as well. And I'm a daughter. They call us Spellhouse babies because my dad went to Morehouse, my mom went to Spelman, and that's why I'm here. So I'm big proponent of HBCUs. I wouldn't be here without them. But yeah, so Edwin also went to Morehouse. And what makes Edwin's story so fascinating and amazing, especially in our community, is that he majored in physics. And so Edwin is actually a physicist in addition to being an Olympic
I
champion.
did not know that.
Yes, so he is a literal rocket scientist. Like after he finished Morehouse while he was competing, and the reason his film is named 13 Steps is because he used his knowledge of engineering and physics to come up with a formula for 13 steps to win the hurdles every time by doing this. And what's so amazing about it is not only did he work out the formula, but it's very difficult to actually go out and run 13 steps because it's physically challenging. So he married his intellectual, brilliance with his physical prowess. And that's how he was able to, he went undefeated for 9 years in a row when he was competing. So if you talk to some of the icons and the GOATs of today, this was what was so fun about that project and helping him with the documentary. You have Tiger Woods saying Edwin Moses has one of the greatest streaks of all time. You have Michael Jordan when he was in the Olympics in Barcelona saying Edwin Moses is one of the greatest Olympians of all time. Even Snoop Dogg, when he was doing the Paris Olympics, was asked about his favorite Olympic moment, and it was Edwin Moses winning the 400-meter hurdles in Los Angeles the last time the games were in Los Angeles. So he's really been an icon. I call him like the GOAT of GOATs, so to speak. But then again, he also just is such a proponent of STEM and science and technology. So he's definitely that brilliant athlete mind and, physically as well.
I guess what else do you help with athletes, or what do you consult?
Yeah.
Athletes of the SVB group.
It's such a great
people that come into it.
Great question. So because of my marketing background, I focus on brand strategy, brand identity. And if you look at Warwick Dunn, who's another friend who I advised for a couple of years, Warwick, obviously another Florida State Seminole, so I'm partial to Warwick. But he has done such a phenomenal job in the impact space. He's got an over 25-year-old charity, Warwick Dunn Charities, that was inspired really by him losing his mom, unfortunately, when he was 17 years old before he went to Florida State. Tragically, his mom was a police officer and was gunned down in the line of duty. And he was actually really principally responsible then for raising his 5 other siblings while he was going to Florida State and training to become ultimately an NFL player. So Warwick was really inspired by his mom because she, was never able to become a homeowner. And his charity has been about giving single moms the opportunity to become homeowners. They cover their down payment. They fully furnish the home. So he's been amazing in terms of a leader in the philanthropy space. And when he was retiring from the Atlanta Falcons, he, struck up a really amazing relationship with Arthur Blank, who's the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, and got an opportunity to become an owner back in 2009. So what I love about Warwick is before you saw a lot of the athletes coming online that you see now, which is fantastic, and becoming owners, he was at the very front end of that.
People to break that glass ceiling.
Exactly. And Warwick is just so incredibly humble that not as many people know that about him. So when I came on to talk about, really extending his brand, that was one of the things that we wanted people to acknowledge. And again, you think of athletes and you don't think of, how committed they can be to becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a business owner. So another thing I love to tell about Warwick and his story is that he went to Emory and actually got his MBA because he said, if I'm going to be in the owner's suite with all of these owners, I want to be able to speak the business language. I want to know more about business, not only for his own ventures, but obviously for that stature that he has now as a limited partner. So really admire there's a theme in who I've been able to work with SVB Group. And that's also the privilege when you have your own firm, especially mine, because it's really been something I've done on the side in addition to my full-time work. So it allows you to really pick and choose who you work with. And I always try to work with legends and, owners now of purpose. And he has a lot of real purpose and impact to what he does. And it's so authentic and genuine. So yeah, I've been really fortunate to work with some amazing legends in the sports space.
10 years in sports.
Yeah.
Texas Rangers. Over 10 years in sports. My apologies.
Yeah.
Texas Rangers, Atlanta Falcons, Oakland Raiders, and the San Antonio Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe tell me, what are some challenges you faced as a woman of color?
Yeah.
In working in the male-dominated sports field?
Yeah, and it's so wonderful that you say that and point that out, because I'm so glad to say there are so many more of us now. And a good colleague of mine, LaTanya Story, established the Sports Power Brunch to recognize women in sports that are doing amazing things. But when I first came into the industry, especially when you're working in the front office for a football team, an NFL team, and obviously basketball for me as well, is I was very conscious of being taken seriously as a woman. And for people knowing that I was not just there to, get to know the athletes and that sort of, stereotype that a lot of women get, charged with when they have an interest in sports. So I was always, and, whenever I'm talking to women in sports, I always was very conscious of how I was presenting myself, of making sure that I could back up my interests with real business knowledge and always being really professional, to a fault. But one thing that I also was aware of that I've seen women do is sort of overcorrect for that a little bit. So I'm still a woman and I'm still going to approach it and I'm still going to navigate my career as an executive as a woman and a female executive. So it was important for me to still be who I am in the space, but also as soon as I open my mouth, I'm engaged, I'm locked in, I'm knowing what I'm talking about and I'm really passionate about continuing to learn and grow from a business standpoint. So I think it's just balancing those two because every person that's hired me for the most part up until recently has been a man. And so there's something about the way I present or project myself where I'm taken seriously. Yeah, at the end of the day.
So I want to dive into a team I actually really enjoy.
Yeah.
San Antonio Spurs.
Yes, the Spurs.
When were you with them? What years?
Go Spurs, go. I got to get out of Go
Spurs,
Spurs, go. So I joined the San Antonio Spurs. It's so funny because I came from the Raiders to the Spurs. So I always would make a joke that I'm leaving one silver and black to go to the other silver and black. There you go. I'm still silver and black, but two different interpretations, right? Because the Raiders brand has a much different, interpretation than the Spurs. So that's also what I love because it matches my brand as well. Is there's a part of me that's very Raiders, and then there's a part of me that's also very Spurs. So I got there in 2010. Which was sort of at the tail end of the Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan era. That's right. Yeah. So when I got in 2010, they were our big three. I think the last championship we had won was a few years before that. So we were really, yeah, exactly, in 07. So continuing to, leverage the legacy and the amazing, unit that Tim, Tony, and Manu were, but also bringing in new players. So Kawhi Leonard started out at the Spurs while I was there. But what I loved about the Spurs, and I was there up until 2014. So yes, we went to the NBA Finals in 2013. Remember, there were two. That's right. That's right. So I remember getting texts from my friends in 2013 with 6 seconds left to go in the game saying, congratulations, you got it. And then that's why you never celebrate too early. Exactly. You always got to wait until the end. So then when the Spurs went back in 2014, I actually left about a few weeks before they won that championship again. So I just missed it. Just missed my ring. Yeah. I know, right? I'm like, oh, just missed the ring. But yeah, that was a phenomenal experience. And what I love about the Spurs, they were just known, they're probably known around sports, in addition to the NBA, for the legacy and just the culture that Coach Pop established. Exactly. And being at a team with a leader like Coach Pop, was the standout. And we also were really, what I love being of Cape Verdean background and, having immigrant, foundation is I love that Coach Pop wanted the Spurs to be so international. So we had like Patty Mills from Australia, obviously Manu Ginobili from Argentina, Tony Parker from France, even Tim Duncan from the Virgin Islands. Exactly. No, you know though. So I love the fact that we were such an international team with our roster and really leverage that. And then obviously Spurs were known for being very values-based organization, and they still are. And when you have someone like a David Robinson, who also has such a legacy and purpose about, who he is and it being about more than basketball, that was a really amazing part about being a part of Spurs. We call Spurs family when I was there. So still, like to this day, I'm like, yeah, well, Spurs family. It's kind of like the Raiders. They say, once a Raider, always a Raider. So once a Spur, always a Spur. Exactly.
Do you mind going back to, I guess, 2011, the first time you met Kawhi?
Yeah. And it's so funny because because I was in marketing, we would do at the beginning of the season in September, just as they're going into training camp, a shoot where we would get all of our, marketing stuff, audio, visual, all of that. So what I'll say about Kawhi, because you get such a good sense of each player's individual personality when you're doing the shoots and they're coming in to shoot their lines. He was so quiet.
So that's really him.
That is so Kawhi. He was so incredibly quiet. I mean, very humble, very, again, sweet and smart. But yeah, that was one thing that struck all of us is like, oh wow, like this is really just who he is. So I'm often curious now that he's been in the league, obviously, for a while, if he still approaches it that way. But yeah, but the other thing about it is, I mean, that fit the Spurs. Exactly. Yeah, it fit, that culture at the time too. So, but yeah, some really great moments in those shoots. I remember Tony Parker was great in those shoots, just full of personality. We did this promo where we had him in a beret, like the whole French beret, and he just like leaned into it. So, and then Manu Ginobili is just full of personality. So I can see why he is, so popular. But yeah, so every player. Yes, exactly, exactly. So every player really brought their own personality to the table. But yeah, I remember those early days, Kawhi.
I love it.
Yeah.
Tell me, it's Women's History Month.
Yes.
Guess who inspired you to chase this career in sports and even health and social impact?
Oh, it's such a good question. And there's so many that come to mind. I mean, of course, I have to start with my family, my grandmother, my mom. My grandmother got her master's degree, back in the 1940s before, that was even heard of for a lot of women, especially women of color. So from an achievement standpoint, certainly her, my mom was a chemistry major at Spelman, so I'm just used to women who do unconventional things, to your point on being a woman in sports and now a woman in men's health with zero prostate cancer. It's second nature for me for a woman to fit into whatever space is the space that she's passionate about. So when you look at, again, in health, cancer researchers that are women and doing amazing things. I actually was just at a lunch with someone on our medical advisory board for zero prostate cancer, Black woman who is at Morehouse School of Medicine doing research on prostate cancer and helping to save lives. So those are the kind of women that really inspire me. Exactly. And then if I just say from, the cultural aspect of being a woman of color and being a Black woman as well is some of those iconic figures like a Dorothy Dandridge. I love old Hollywood as well. So Dorothy Dandridge is one of those that's like just, really, really inspires me and certainly paved the way for a lot of Black women.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Let's talk about zero prostate cancer for a little bit.
Yeah.
I know obviously they're an organization about prostate cancer, but could you maybe tell us a little bit more why you chose to accept the role of CMO?
Yeah, I absolutely can. And so, what I will say is that it's amazing as you're going through your life and your career, those things that are really preconceiving what your destiny might be. And I say that just to say there were two things that happened before I ended up at zero last year in 2024. And one is that I spoke on a panel at Fanatics to NFL and NBA players about social impact and giving back. And next to me is two-time NBA All-Star, Olympic gold medalist, New York Knicks legend, Allen Houston. And when I come off of the panel with him and CEO of Make-A-Wish Foundation New Jersey, Allen leans in and says, I'm a prostate cancer survivor. And Allen, and I didn't know that. And to your point, one of the first thing I thought is, wow, he's so young. Because the face of prostate cancer has been older and even white, men. And so that spoke to me. And at the time, I never knew that I would be at a prostate cancer foundation specifically, but we said, let's talk. Let's see how we can maybe work together because we knew we were both passionate about impact. And then before that, in October of the year before I joined Zero Prostate Cancer, I lost my uncle to prostate cancer, and he was a veteran. Thank you. Thank you. So never would have imagined that literally a year to the day that I lost my uncle, I would have this opportunity to really focus on a prostate cancer organization. And the thing about Zero Prostate Cancer, it started out as the National Prostate Cancer Coalition. So it was all about advocating for public funding, and what they've done over the span of almost 30 years, because it was started in 96, so next year we'll be 30 years old, is they helped unlock public funding for research and discovery. So they're responsible for helping unlock over $2 billion since 1996 from the government. And then they expanded into patient support and patient programs. So the fact that, Zero Prostate Cancer really focuses on being the voice of the patient is what really brought me in. and to be able to marry everything that I know and have done with men's sports with reaching them from a medical health standpoint is what really inspires me right now. So a lot of my sports work still crosses over with my men's health work now with Zero. I brought Alan Houston onto our board. So that was also, again, another one of those signs. As soon as I got, together and started, working on the marketing plan for Zero, I said to our CEO, I'd love to invite him, to join our board and nominate him. And obviously he went through the process with the board and was ultimately nominated to join. Lance Frank, who's an executive vice president at CBS News, he and I were in at Harvard executive education program together. And I reached out to Lance and said, would you like to put your name in the hat to be nominated for the board? So being able to make that connection immediately with my network in the sports and entertainment and media space with now Men's Health, it is changing that face. And as a matter of fact, again, not only is prostate cancer, younger than we think and more men of color and African American men in particular diagnosed, but they're actually the highest risk population. So Black men are 70% more likely to get prostate cancer, a lot of them in their 40s and 50s, so at earlier ages. And then veterans also are twice as likely to die. And again, my uncle was a member of both of those communities. So it really spoke to me specifically to be able to focus on this one form of cancer and on a network and a space, again, through my sports background where I have such pull through. To really bring that side to the table. But in general, we really pride ourselves at Zero Prostate Cancer on being the voice of the prostate cancer patient community. We want to meet the men where they are, inform them with that information. I was actually just having this conversation today, and a lot of men don't know that it's a blood test. A lot of men think that you go straight to. Exactly. So we're focused on breaking down some of that stigma around it, opening up the conversation, because there is a lot of misinformation out there as it relates to it. And once men know, they're like, oh, okay, then that's not, what I thought. So I'm really enjoying that side of what we do as an organization, just raising the awareness and making it not only just making it a more normalized topic to really discuss. And then the next level is once you know, then you take the action. And then we can try to, again, break down some of those barriers. And I named our initiative. We're launching a $20 million initiative to help close the gap in survival. And as I was thinking about, we did a focus group with men and, they gave some of their feedback and they were like, look, we know there's a disparity, but we don't want to be victims. We want to be empowered. What are we doing about the issue? And so I was thinking, well, what's a term that's, empowering and also how we're attacking this issue from all of these different points, angles. And I thought of course, I'm a sports girl, so I thought of Blitz. So Blitz the Barriers is what we named our $20 million initiative that we just launched last month. Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's father, is also an ambassador of ours and just joined our board. And he was doing press for us. And he's just, we got to blitz this issue and let's blitz through these barriers. So again, you see how sports entertainment and the health for me all connects and it all comes together.
I just want to say it's really beautiful to see how passionate you are about this, about prostate cancer, especially when it's the cancer that doesn't affect you.
Yes.
I love to see it. So thank you for your work and thank you for your passion. I know you're going to save a bunch of lives.
Thank you.
More too.
Thank you.
But I guess my next question would be for that girl that's like you, or the young girl that was like you, the younger girl. My apologies.
Yes, I know, right? I'm like, yeah, still,
like you that she knows she's into sports.
Yeah.
She knows maybe I like social impact, or maybe I have some type of background in health. I want to be some type of dentist, doctor, whatever.
Yeah.
But what are some advice you give to that young girl still trying to figure out how to break into one of these fields?
So the first thing I would say is never stop dreaming. I feel and I'm, so incredibly sure that the reason I am where I am is because I'm a dreamer, first and foremost. And so if you have a dream to be whatever, don't let go of it, pursue it. But the key is dream big enough where you can pivot and be flexible. Or even for me, my first dream was to work in a front office of a professional sports team. Then I got there and I'm thinking, okay, what else? So allow for your dreams to get bigger Exactly, and to expand and then, be curious. I love that term, be curious, because when you're curious, then you can see the possibilities in different, things, and it'll allow you. I'm a big believer in transferable skills. If you can't tell, like how many times I've pivoted in and out of situations, but I would say to young women in particular, like I said, don't be afraid of going into male dominated spaces. Make sure that you take yourself seriously first, and others will take you seriously. And there may be situations that are not well suited. So again, you have to be open to pivoting, finding the right places for you to exist in the space. But you really will be surprised as you start going through your career and achieving certain milestones, how other things will open up to you. Exactly, other doors will open. And then the other thing I'll say, of course, because when I'm starting out and I don't have a legacy in sports or, health or any of these spaces, and I was told it's who you know, and it is who you know. But how do you get to who you know is you put yourself out there and never be afraid, exactly, to offer up, something that you have. Everyone has something to offer. So if you're reaching out to try to volunteer or to intern, go through what it is, the perspective or experience that you have that can bring, something to the table for that person. So, and then once you get in, your network builds off of itself. So I literally built a network from scratch simply from going into internships and opportunities, doing great work, and then, continuing to keep them in my network. I joined an organization early on in my sports career called Black Sports Professionals because I said there's 32 other NFL teams out there with people that are doing what I'm doing, and I want to know all of them. Yeah, so that would be my advice as well to women and to, young people in particular is, that network starts early and expand it, cultivate it. You may not ask. The best time to build a network is when you don't need anything from them, is when you can offer something. So even if it's, I love to bounce this idea off of you, or I saw that cool thing that you did in your space, and here's what I'm looking at doing. It's constantly like best practice sharing and all of that so that you really have that genuine touch point and connection.
Man, I just want to thank you so much, Miss Sheri,
Yes.
for taking your seat at the table,
Oh, thank
talking
you.
some sports, talking some health, and of course,
Yes.
some social impact.
Hmm.
Please let everybody know where we can find you at, follow you, and keep up with
Yes, zero prostate cancer.
prostate cancer.
So you can go to zerocancer.org for all things zero prostate cancer. And we just announced our board yesterday. We've got a lot of exciting things coming. Men's Health Month is coming up in June. So we're going to do some great things with that. And obviously, September being Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. And then for more on SVB Group, you can go to svbgroup.net and, find out more information on some of the projects happening with that. And then, of course, I am on LinkedIn. I'm on my Instagram is private. So I don't know about Instagram, but certainly reach out.
You on LinkedIn.
You find me on LinkedIn, exactly. And then obviously, on some of the other platforms also. But thank you so much. This was great. I always love just being able to share and learn, right? Because it's always a two-way street.
Absolutely. It was a great conversation. I definitely learned a lot. So I
Great.
just want to thank you again.
Yeah.
And we're rolling out. Hello.
Rolling out. Love it.